got nothing but the blues. Oh, the devil in the morning, ain't got nothing but the blues. Whenever the sunshine comes through, whenever my thoughts turn to you, whatever you want me to do, I will be there. Whether I've crawled up the hill, now I've been through the mill, just as long as I fit the bill, I will be there. And if it's on a lazy afternoon in summertime, while you're drinking champagne and wine, anytime I don't mind, even if I've got the blues, after I've paid all my dues, you decide to go for a cruise, I will be there.
Call this meeting to order. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submissions to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Houck.
Here.
Councilman Pucciarelli.
Here.
Councilman Ritchie.
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh.
Here.
And Mayor Aronson.
Here. Please join us in the flag salute. Please join us now in a moment of silence as we honor the American men and women serving in the armed forces, as well as those serving as first responders. Great, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. We are going to start with a couple of administrative items, and then we have a couple proclamations. We're going to talk a little bit about the mayor's wellness campaign, and we'll go to comments from the public, and then we'll move right through the agenda. The first thing is our acceptance of financial reports. I move the bills, claims, and vouchers and statement of funds on hand as of May 31st, 2014 be accepted as submitted.
Second.
Hauk.
Yes.
Cucciarelli.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Aaronson.
Yes, I move that the village council minutes of August 14th and August 20th, 2013, February 26th, March 5th, March 19th, March 26th, and April 23rd, 2014, having been reviewed by the village council and now available in the village clerk's office, be approved as submitted.
I'll second.
Hauk.
Yes.
Cucciarelli.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Aaronson.
Yes, so we have two proclamations tonight. The first one is going to be read by the Deputy Mayor, proclaiming June 14, 2014 as Ridgewood Knights of Columbus Day.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the Knights of Columbus is a Catholic men's fraternal organization with a focus on anyone in need, donating uncounted hours and well over $1 million of financial aid to organizations and individuals who need their help. And whereas a few areas that the Knights of Columbus concentrate their charitable efforts on are single mothers who need food and shelter, the hungry, the mentally challenged, and families in crisis. And whereas charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism are the core principles that have guided the actions of the Knights of Columbus over the years, with the end result being the realization of a better community. And whereas the Ridgewood Knights of Columbus Council 1736 meet to organize many yearly activities to raise funds for those in need and to raise awareness of important social issues that impact the poor and our veterans. And whereas the Knights of Columbus Council 1736 has been serving the village of Ridgewood for 100 years and has become a cornerstone of Ridgewood's personality. And whereas the Ridgewood Knights of Columbus Council 1736 will reaffirm their collective commitment to the Knights of Columbus guiding principles through their centennial celebration, which will provide an opportunity to raise funds for three important local charities: Ridgewood Social Services, Camp Sunshine, and Good Counsel Homes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood, thanks to the Ridgewood Knights of Columbus Council 1736 for their 100 years of service to the Village of Ridgewood, and does hereby proclaim June 14th, 2014 as the Ridgewood Knights of Columbus Council 1736 Day in the Village of Ridgewood in recognition for their centennial celebration, and encourages the residents of the Village of Ridgewood to support the Ridgewood Knights of Columbus Council 1736 as they continue their extraordinary work.
We have a couple of representatives from the Knights of Columbus. Good evening, welcome, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Council. Deputy Mayor, you said everything I was going to say. No, my name is Sean Noble. I'm the Grand Knight, the current Grand Knight, and hold that honorable distinction this year of the Knights of Columbus here in town, Council 1736, and this is my friend Bill Fahey. And as the Deputy Mayor said, we are celebrating our 100th anniversary this Saturday. And we've had the support from our parish, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and we also have had the support of the people within Ridgewood, and we're very grateful for that. The handicapped, the poor, the disabled, veterans, those living in Ridgewood have been the recipients of our goodwill over the last 100 years. And on June 15th of this year, we hope to continue the tradition for another 100 years. So thank you very much.
Okay, great. Give this cool momentum.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next proclamation I will read. It's for our Mayor's Wellness Campaign. I'm going to read the proclamation, and then Gwen and I are going to talk a little bit about what we're doing. It's something we've been talking about some of our recent meetings, but we have something exciting to unveil this evening. So let me read the proclamation. Whereas 55% of New Jersey residents are obese or overweight, and whereas medical expenses for treating problems related to obesity in our state total billions annually, and whereas New Jersey has reported the highest incidence in the nation in obesity among low-income children aged 2 to 5 years, and whereas the current generation of children in America may have shorter life expectancies than their parents, and whereas the Mayor's Wellness Campaign supports mayors as champions of community health, and whereas the goal of the campaign is to improve health, reduce health care costs related to obesity, and make New Jersey a national leader in community-based health interventions, and whereas the Mayor's Wellness Campaign seeks to foster active living and healthy lifestyles by providing communities the structure and resources to implement healthy community initiatives, and whereas the Mayor's Wellness Campaign will work to implement a comprehensive program of outreach, education, and technical assistance activities to combat obesity and inactivity issues, now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood cares deeply about all of its citizens and the future health of its children, and asks that all residents of this community join them in supporting the Mayor's Wellness Campaign, and encourages the residents of the Village of Ridgewood to participate in the Mayor's Wellness Campaign activities to promote exercise, eating properly, and living healthier and better lives. Now, that proclamation is based on some standard language that a lot of communities use. We started this initiative, as we've discussed, several weeks ago. I think Ridgewood had a Mayor's Wellness Campaign several years ago. I don't know exactly what happened to it, but this is an initiative that's sort of promoted throughout the state. And we decided to take it up several weeks ago. Gwen and I, Councilwoman Houck and I, have sort of gathered members of our community together to try to sort of figure out what makes sense for Ridgewood. How can Ridgewood do the Mayor's Wellness Campaign? And we decided to take more of a holistic approach, not just focusing on physical health, but frankly also mental health, spiritual health, health in general. And so the people we have sitting around the table with us at our meetings are folks from the YMCA and folks from Ridgewood Sports, but also people from Valley Hospital and folks from West Bergen Mental Health and the Board of Education. It's like the Chamber of Commerce in terms of healthy eating. And so it's a real community-wide effort, and we're just starting to get it off the ground. So we wanted to start with this proclamation. We also came up with a slogan, and with that slogan, we've wanted a logo. And at Councilwoman Houck's suggestion and initiative, we had a logo contest. And I'll turn it over to you to finish this, but wait, I'll let you finish this.
Okay. All right, so it was a little hard getting it off the ground because it's a cooperative effort between, so far, 10 different institutions have been at our Mayor's Wellness Campaign Committee meetings. And I really want to thank Mayor Aronson for thinking of this, because it has gained a lot of momentum, and I think it's going to be a great thing for Ridgewood. And it says in the description, the Mayor's Wellness Campaign, co-sponsored by League of Municipalities and the New Jersey Healthcare Quality Institute, challenges mayors across the state to take this active role in the health of the communities they service. And that's exactly what he did. I ended up being the chair of the committee, which was because my hand was like this, because no one else put their hand up. And I'm enjoying this opportunity now, because the first thing we did was get this challenge to come up with the logo to go with the slogan, which is going to kick off the campaign. And our winning logo was this one, which was designed by the Cowie family, which is sitting in the back. And we'd like to have the Cowie family come up. And then we have the Men's family, which came runner-up, second place. It was almost impossible to decide on the best logo, but we had to. And this committee of 9 or 10 people voted on our winning logo, which we will be using on, we will be using this on stationery, T-shirts, posters, our Facebook page, and our website. And we will be having a party on the beach at Graydon on Monday with 150 people who are going to be celebrating the fact that they all lost a collective 600 pounds. And we are going to have a banner, and we're going to take a photograph of the whole group, as you know. But for now, I would really like to ask the Cowie family and the Men's family to come up and introduce themselves. And I'll just tell you a little bit about the kind of people who participate in events like this and make Ridgewood such a fine place to live in. Do you guys want to come up for a group picture with them? Sure. That'd be nice.
She's going.
Thank you, Tom. So this Callie family has lived in Ridgewood for 15 years, and Mrs. Callie, I believe, is a graphic artist, and we got her services for free. And now I'd like to bring up the men's family. This is Carl and Catherine Menz, who came in second, but barely. They've lived in Ridgewood for 10 years. They have 2 children that couldn't make it tonight. Three and one? 5 and 1. They're adorable, but they're sleeping right now. And also their services were for free, and we get to use their logo. And I really, really appreciate everything you did for us. Thank you. Carl works in Ridgewood as well, in the Pease Library building for a publishing company. Okay.
I may comment on the logo, if I may, Gwen?
Yes.
I noticed the logo is the good life, and that's not the first time that expression's been used in a prominent way in Ridgewood, although very few people know it. A woman who grew up in my home and graduated Ridgewood High School, I think 1913, was named Helen Kenothi. She married Scott Nearing, and if you look it up, Helen Nearing and Scott Nearing are the founders of the American naturalist movement. And their seminal work, jointly authored, is called The Good Life. And it is, it is indeed a testimony to what healthy living, the right food, and exercise, and staying close to the earth can do for people. So Helen and Scott Nearing would be really proud that that was the slogan that we chose for this.
Very interesting. All right, well, thank you again, everybody. Now we'll move on to comments from the public. I'll entertain any questions, comments, suggestions. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening. I'm Margie Downs, and this is Anne Marie Snyder, and we're here representing the Ridgewood 4th of July Celebration Committee, and we'd like to thank Councilman Walsh and Councilman Ritchie for their service to not only the village, but also their participation and support in our celebration, especially Councilman Ritchie, who has been our council liaison for the last few years. And so, as a remembrance of being in the parade, we have the car signs. That we'd like to present to each of them.
Great, thank you.
We're going to sneak it, put that on your car.
Thank you so much.
All right, Ellie, that's a tough act to follow.
Before I
begin, Ellie Gruber, 229 South Irving. I want to thank especially Mr. Ritchie for carrying the ball for us for this great support for this restoring the open space funding. I'm sorry I was out of town the last couple of times, but I really appreciate it, and I thank the council. You've done a very good thing, so thank you. I wasn't here last week, but I watched the meeting via my computer the next morning. The reason I'm here tonight is because what I saw at the meeting disturbed me for several reasons. First and foremost, Mr. Pucciarelli stated his displeasure with the state requirement that prevented the council from attending. He said he wanted to hear what the residents had to say, but so did we. But no resident other than those invited could hear. I found this remark disingenuous. Democracy is messy. Let's not forget that. The Sunshine Law, the Open Public Meetings Law, was passed specifically to address the problems that arose when the council decided to meet with more than a few residents, having village employees, including the police, the press, and a photographer attend the hearing. When we are told that, quote, we should have called to find out if there is a meeting, that flies in the face of the Sunshine Law. We, the residents, the taxpayers, the citizens of Ridgewood, should not have to call to find out if there's a meeting. You, the public employee, the council member, the mayor, the manager, and the village attorney, you're the ones who have to notify us. Again, I have to repeat, democracy's messy, but without these safeguards, decisions get made in the dark. This council, I'm sad to say, has been putting out fires since it was elected. All we see are apologies, backtracking, and it's a waste of time. Ours, and more important, yours. You are giving a tremendous amount of time on the council, unpaid and with good intentions. But if you did things the right way, your time and troubles would be all but eliminated. Mayor, you said last week that these kind of meetings happen all the time, and I beg to differ. When I meet with one of the council members and our extremely qualified and excellent engineer, I may say, when we asked for a meeting with members of the Open Space Committee about Shedler recently, that was for details of the plan, and that was most informal. When I met over the years with different mayors and council people, it was usually one-on-one, one elected official, maybe an employee. That's the way it's supposed to work. You listen to a point of view, you offered your advice, and then if you choose to discuss it in public, you do. Regarding the underpass project, I totally agree that bicycle riders are underserved. More bikes, less car, more exercise. I'm all for that, and our REACT committee promotes this. And I do believe this was a project with good intentions, and that's the saddest part. The intention is being disregarded because the council has acted the way they always do, not consulting the public beforehand. I'm almost done. When you saw the residents' meeting was getting way out of hand as far as the number of people, it should have been rescheduled and public notice given. People would understand you've got to obey the law. Obviously, you knew it was going to be a large number of people. Email practically predicts this. The final and main point I wish to make is that decisions like the underpass, which impact almost the entire village, should never have been couched in a vague description of paving. I appreciate Councilwoman Hauk's statement echoing this. Surely by now you should have realized it needed the light of day. And look at the time you're spending putting out fires once again. The spirit of the Sunshine Law was broken, and this is not the first time you've been called out on this. We had this problem with the Graydon ramp, and at the time you seemed like you understood that private meetings where the entire town is affected is never a good idea. Skirting the law by saying that Mrs. Hauk was behind a door, that makes it a violation. I also would have liked to be behind the door. At least I might have known what was going on. If you want a less time-consuming job, you'll have to discontinue public service and go into private service. Don't blame the state of New Jersey for passing a law that's made it easier to be an informed citizen of this state. We need it, and we need you all to understand that the law makes for better decisions in the end. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, we will move on to the manager's report.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. Good evening. So sometimes, you know, when I do the manager's report, I rip things from the headlines that I think might be of interest to the residents. So this week, I guess you couldn't help but notice in the Bergen Record particularly the discussion of $1.5 million in payouts for 8 police officers, including 6 police chiefs. It was a lead story. It was a editorial as well. So I thought I would just spend a couple of minutes tonight just going through how we kind of relate to that a little bit. So for those of you that have gone through the budget presentations, this is a little bit duplicative, but as you know, we have about 7.1 unfunded liabilities, $7.1 million in unfunded liabilities, which is an accumulation of retirement payments. Okay, and there are 3 components of this. One is sick time, one is compensatory time, and the third is vacation time. So as far as sick time, this is the preponderant amount, and what the village does vis-a-vis sick time is a person is allowed sick time payment of 6 months' salary or a half of accrued sick time, whichever less. So as far as, and I think as a lot of you know, the village employees get 15 days per year of sick leave. And the preponderant, the real reason for that, and I had to get kind of sensitized to this as well, is that as opposed to those of us who worked in the private sector where we had short-term and long-term disability, our employees here do not. So that's why the sick time is given in such a big lump, so just in case something happens long range, they can be able to sustain it. So out of the $7.1 million of unfunded liabilities, $5 million is sick. So it's the biggest chunk, okay? As far as compensatory time, this is, time that's given in lieu of overtime. That would be about 1.3 million of the 7.1 million. And as far as police and fire, they're capped at 480 hours of compensatory time. And vacation time, a village employee can carry over a year, which is a maximum of 60 days vacation time. So that equates to about $900,000 of the 7.1 million. So that's how our unfunded liabilities kind of look. As far as ongoing health benefits, it was a question a couple of weeks ago for retirees. It costs us about $220,000 per month for retirees. So I think I gave an example at the budget reviews, but for example, we have 11 confirmed retirements this year, and they will cost us about $800,000 over 3 years. Okay, so, and comp time for fire will cost us another $142,000 based on 4 firefighters retiring. So I just wanted to just put that out there, just to give you an idea of how we look. We think the average police fire is about $150,000. It doesn't approach, I think one of the chiefs was at $340,000.
342.
342. So I just wanted to give everybody an idea of how it works here. As far as my responses to residents this week, I have 2, so I'm a little shorter this week. We had a couple come in that live on Lakeview, right near the mulching facility, and they came in to discuss Kings Pond, which is actually a park, a natural park right by the mulching facility. And they asked if we would consider doing several things. They asked if we would consider clearing the vegetation on the shoreline, creating a growth-free walking area along the shoreline, expanding it, and repairing the dam that's there and dredging the pond. So I committed to them that we would go look, and we did. We did a little tour, walked around, walked through the paths that were. It's really kind of pretty there. And we went back to the residents. I sent them an email earlier this week and said, because it's deemed a riparian habitat, we're really limited on removing the vegetation at the shoreline. And that although we thought the other ideas they had were beautiful and they were doable, we figured that it would be a major capital project that would be $1 million plus for a small park. So we said we could consider it next year's capital. And we might, but it is an area that's not frequented that much. So they actually came back to me today again with another email and had some other ideas which we'll respond to, but I just wanted to let you know about that one. And that happened during meet the manager on Saturday. And another person came in from the Cedar Croft West End Parkland area. We have some parkland area around there, and asked if we would look at some trees that had fallen during a storm a couple of years ago that had like really bad branches kind of sticking out all over, and we agreed that we would clear that up. So those are my two reports from response to residents. As far as North Walnut redevelopment zone, we are keying in on July 9th as presenting a draft RFP to the council. So hopefully we can get that done in short shrift. Also on July 9th, we're going to be, hopefully, we will be presenting an ordinance that kind of plays off of the creation of the Site Plan Exemption Committee that I guess happened, I'm not sure, 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, which was an attempt to streamline the approval process for site plan approvals. So there was some work done early last year, 2013. There was some brainstorming done with the business community and a couple of folks on our side, and we kind of dropped the work for a variety of reasons, but we just redid the ordinance, and we will be adding improvements that can be exempted by the Site Plan Exemption Committee. We would also permit them to forego meetings to review simple applications and have specific members do that. We would reduce fees for simple, low-cost improvements. So that should really go a bit with the business community and getting stuff done in a shorter cycle time. So hopefully we will get that to the council on July 9th. Today we put in place a construction communications process in the village. This will be many times a day, once every 2 days. As soon as we find out that there's going to be any kind of road closures, any kind of dumpsters being put up, any kind of meter closings, we will be sending an email to the business community through the Guild, through the Chamber. We'll be sending it to the Board of Ed. We'll also be sending it to ourselves because sometimes our sanitation workers don't know that a road is closed and they say, oh my, and they can't do their normal choreography. So this is a new process. It's going to take a little birthing, but we started today and we've already sent out 2 emails, and we're going to post it on the website. So hopefully that will clear up some of the confusion, and it's a real nice enhancement to the business community as well. Okay. And one thing that brought this up is, I like to say now, kind of tongue-in-cheek, everybody blames things on Garber Square construction, and yesterday was no exception to this. We found out that the police had closed the road and there was only one lane in either direction, so we had to alternate east and west in Garber Square. But it had nothing to do with Garber Square construction. It had to do with emergency work because a clay tile conduit, very old, collapsed and needed emergency repair, so Verizon came in. So that kind of made us think that, and after having some meetings with the CBD, and residents made us think that we should put stuff out there as we know it. And sometimes we know it like minutes before, believe it or not, but, so that's our new construction communications. As far as Garber Square goes, we have some raw data in on the traffic plates. We have to really examine the videotape, and I'm hoping next week we have more analysis of that to be able to present to you. Cottage Place, Lot 12, the analysis is continuing on the 2 proposals that we got, and we'll be back on that one too. So I think that's my report.
Great, thank you. Another excellent report. Appreciate it. We'll move on to Village Council reports. Bernie?
Yep, I'll start with my REAC and Shade Tree Commission reports. So in the coming weeks, you're going to be seeing some beautification going on in the CBD. Many of you have probably seen a lot of the trees that maybe don't look so good in the tree wells. We're going to be replacing, Ellie, correct me if I'm wrong, 10 trees in the CBD. And this is part of the, the kind of kickoff and education process of the Shade Tree Commission to work and put trees in there that are going to be sustainable in those wells, because those wells are only 18 inches deep. So really you shouldn't be, and you can't really be planting trees that are going to have deep roots because there's electrical again, conduits underneath there. So, so the trees that were selected are going to be ornamental trees that can live in that depth of soil, and then we're going to be also, cleaning up the wells so that there's not weeds and everything else. We're working with the merchants that have wells in front of their establishments so that maybe they can start helping us take care of it, because the trees are going to need about 5 gallons of water a week. So with Project Pride helping us out, really just to make sure that the trees stay alive, we're going to make sure that everybody kind of pitches in, and then this is going to be kind of the start of the tree planting throughout the village. So it's great. They're off and running, and that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Albert?
Thank you. The Ridgewood Advisory Council did not meet since the last meeting. However, I did have the pleasure of interviewing candidates for that council, and I have to say the process has brought out, excuse me, some very energetic and creative people, of which apparently we have a lot in Ridgewood. But these people who've come forward have some very interesting ideas for the Ridgewood Arts Council, and I'm not going to steal their thunder, but I'm really excited about where this council will go with the full board in place as of July 1. And I think their work will be very visible to the people of Ridgewood. Second, I did attend the Financial Advisory Committee meeting on Monday, and that group is functioning very well with an awful lot of energy and an awful lot of talent brought to bear. They are looking, for example, at the 2 responses we received to the RFP for the property on East Ridgewood Avenue. And as you might guess, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. That would be too simple. An analysis is required to see which of the 2 responses is really financially better for the village. And Roberta, our village manager, to her credit, has asked for the help of the Financial Advisory Committee in evaluating those responses. They also continue their work on the collective bargaining agreements. We really want to understand those agreements as we're going into the negotiation season for our 2 uniformed services, 4 contracts. And we have to go into those negotiations at least knowing what the present agreements say. That would be a very good starting point, and the FAC is helping us with that. And they have actually, and this will come as a surprise to the village manager, they've actually began whispering about the process for the 2015 budget. We've just concluded the 2014 budget, but this is, after all, June 11th of 2014. So the Financial Advisory Committee, true to its word, is looking at how we might start the process of the 2015 budget, albeit in a slow way, and give everybody a little bit of a breather from 2014. But anyway, I'm very, very proud to be associated with that group.
Great. Thanks, Albert. Tom?
Sure. 2 things. Thank you to the 4th of July Committee for allowing me to serve and be the liaison for the last couple of years. Again, everybody come out for the 4th of July. They're looking for volunteers still and looking for donations. It's all funded by that committee every year. It takes a lot of money to put that day on. I was going to talk about open space on the resolution, but I might as well talk about it right now. There's a resolution that the council will vote on tonight urging the county of Bergen to restore the open space tax back to the 1 cent per hundred. They lowered it years ago down to 1/4 cent. And what that's done is it's basically eliminated grant money that Ridgewood had relied upon for our open space in the past. There was an article in the Bergen Record, I think yesterday or whatever, but we shouldn't be fooled by that. They talked about some new open space money becoming available, but it wasn't new money. It was basically old money, and it was a minimal amount of money that had not been used, that had already been given out. So they just cleaned up some of the old open space grants that had not been used. So it's a one-time fix. It's a headline. It's not the sustainable kind of open space grant money that the Village of Ridgewood is looking for. And as the village manager touched on tonight, the Kings Pond thing clearly would qualify for open space grant, and that would be a great project. So that's the kind of thing. Ridgewood has received close to $5 million in grant money over the last X number of years. So we're urging the county freeholders to restore that tax back. And again, thank you to that committee. It's a great committee. We've got some great volunteers on there that do good work all the time. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Gwen?
Just encouraging people to go buy your passes for Graydon Pool. The water is, they say, the clearest it's ever been. You can see the bottom, 10 feet deep. You can see the sand. We have a new concession vendor this year, and we're getting great reviews for that vendor. Apparently, the chicken wrap is incredible. I don't know if I would go to Graydon just to buy a chicken wrap, but they're talking about this chicken wrap. The badges are $110 for, $120 for adults, $110 for children, $30 for senior citizens, and $30 for disabled residents. So rush over and buy a badge. Also, I just wanted to talk about parking outside Village Hall. The library and Village Hall compete with the athletes for who use the fields at Vets Field. And I think it makes sense for the people who play on the ball fields to park over on the other side, closer to Graydon, and then they can walk the same amount of feet onto the ball field as they would if they parked by Village Hall and the library. And that would make it easier for people with young children and people, our seniors, who really want to just walk the same amount of distance to the library and Village Hall. We really have a shortage of parking here at our municipal center. So everyone is listening, if you're going to play sports on Vets Field, park on the Graydon parking lot and try to save some space for other people at Municipal Hall. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Gwen. The only thing I'll note is Planning Board met this past Monday. We heard from the planner who wanted to offer some clarifications for Valley Hospital, and then we heard the two sort of closing arguments from the respective attorneys. We are meeting again Monday night for the sole purpose of the board's attorney, Gail Price, to give the charge to the Planning Board members. And then Tuesday night, we are meeting to actually vote on the Valley proposal. And those two meetings will be at Benjamin Franklin Middle School. And with that, we can move on to our ordinances. Start with a couple public hearings. I move the clerk read ordinance 3416 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be opened.
Second.
Hauk?
Yes.
Pucciarelli?
Yes.
Ritchie?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Arrington?
Yes, will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3416?
An ordinance to lease the one-family residential dwelling located at 1057 Hillcrest Road in the village of Ridgewood, county of Bergen, for a term not to exceed 2 years for one-family purposes only.
Public hearing is now open. Good evening.
Good evening. Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. A question with respect to the continued lease of the house on Parkland. What's the long-term plan with respect to getting rid of the house and converting the property there to park, or using the house for a public purpose as opposed to a private purpose? I realize that the $48,000 it looks like we're collecting a year is kind of difficult to give up, but Green Acres funding was used to purchase the property. Do we have a long-term plan in terms of putting something there that can be used for the public?
My understanding, and somebody please correct me if you want, we're still looking at the potential use of that house as well as the barn, as you know, those discussions. In terms of our ability to continue accepting rent, because we did get the grants, I know Janet Fricke has been in touch with them and everything is fine, and it's a temporary measure until we figure out what we want to do both with that house and also related to that, the barn.
So we're continuing to look at the possibility of putting something there, but right now we don't have anything.
And right now, honestly, it's not a top priority for our engineering team and for our designers. It's not a top priority.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Thanks. Any other comments, questions? All right, I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Hauk?
Yes.
Pucciarelli?
Yes.
Ritchie?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Arrington?
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3416 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
I second.
Hauk?
Yes.
Pucciarelli?
Yes.
Ritchie?
Yep.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Arrington?
Yes. I move the clerk read ordinance 3417 by title on second reading and that the public hearing thereon be opened.
Second.
Hauk?
Yes.
Pucciarelli?
Yes.
Ritchie?
Yes.
Walsh?
Yes.
And Arrington?
Yes. Will the clerk please read the title of ordinance 3417?
An ordinance to adopt the Abandoned Property and Rehabilitation Act, NJSA 55:19-78 at SEC, and establish a new chapter in Part 2 of the Code of the Village of Ridgewood entitled General Legislation, creating a new section entitled Abandoned Property.
Public hearing is now open. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Hauk?
Yes.
Pucciarelli?
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Aronson.
Yes.
I move that ordinance 3417 be adopted on second reading and final publication as required by law.
I second the motion.
Hauk.
Yes.
Cucciarelli.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yep.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Aronson.
Yes. Ordinance 3418 to establish a green team was introduced on May 14, 2014. However, the legal ad with the ordinance and the notice of public hearing was not published. Therefore, this ordinance will be considered again at the July work session by the new village council. With that, we'll move on to resolutions.
The following resolutions, numbered 14-139 through 14-152, will be adopted by a consent agenda with one vote by the village council, and they will be read by title only. Waive 4th of July vendor fees. Grant permission to fireworks company for fireworks display. Approve liquor license renewals. Title 59 approval, landscaping services, Ridgewood Water. Award contract, landscaping services, Ridgewood Water. Award professional services contract, animal control services, and waterfowl management. Award contract under county contract, lightning detection system. Award contract under state contract, 2 SUVs for police department. Award extraordinary unspecifiable services contract, repair Brookside Field sanitary sewer. Authorized snow plowing agreement with Bergen County. Approved grant application, Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP, beautification of the approaches to the Historic Village train station. Authorized renewal of intent to participate in Community Development Block Grant Program and Home Investment Partnership Act Program. Appoint Safe Routes to School Coordinator and request Bergen County to restore full funding to Bergen County Open Space Trust Fund. May I have a motion?
Move the consent.
Second.
Hauk.
Yes.
Pucciarelli.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes.
And Aronson.
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 14-153 will be read in full. Whereas the plans and specifications for Wilsey and Garber Square Road resurfacing and improvements, NJDOT Municipal Aid 2012, and various village streets in the Village of Ridgewood project was approved by Village Council Resolution number 13-216 on September 18, 2013. And whereas the Village Council, in response to requests from residents concerned about traffic congestion, which might be created by the Wilsey and Garber Square Road resurfacing and improvements, NJDOT Municipal Aid 2012, and various village streets in the Village of Ridgewood project, at some point in time in the future, elected to provide for the ability to maintain 2 non-MUTCD standard traffic lanes in both the eastbound and westbound directions through the Garber Square project zone by reducing the proposed median width from the designed and approved 8 feet to 4 feet in width, with the understanding that 2 traffic lanes would result in the loss of the designated bicycle lane. Now therefore be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the plans and specifications specifically titled Revised Wilsey and Garber Square Road Resurfacing and Improvements, NJDOT Municipal Aid 2012, and various village streets in the Village of Ridgewood, prepared by the Village of Ridgewood Department of Public Works Engineering Division, with a 4-foot median, be and is hereby approved by the Village Council of Village of Ridgewood. This resolution is adopted pursuant to the authority of NJSA 59:4-6. May I have a motion?
Second.
Who moved? I'm sorry.
So moved. So moved.
You moved?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
Comment on the resolution?
Wait a minute. I'm confused. Who moved?
We have 2
I
seconds,
moved. He
no
seconded.
motion.
Okay, so Councilwoman
moved.
Walsh and then Councilman Pucciarelli. Okay.
Comment on the resolution. What the resolution does not include and fails to mention is that there's cost involved with this, although the costs are not known at this point. They've been estimated to be somewhere in the range of $45,000.
Okay. So, we're ready to vote? Any other comments? Okay. Hauk?
Yes.
Pucciarelli?
Yes.
Ritchie?
No.
Walsh? Yes. And Aronson?
Yes, thank you. We'll move back to comments from the public. Any questions, comments, suggestions, please? Good evening, welcome.
Rorick Halliday, 374 Evergreen Place. As far as this resolution, first I want to compliment the village manager for being so clever at handling an explosive situation last meeting we had and diffusing it as well as she did by taking into account the comments that made by various people. Now, what I would urge you to do is to reduce the width from 8 feet to 2 feet, because the 2 feet will mean nothing as far as the separation, but it'll mean a lot to the road itself. Also, what you could do to meet the needs for a bicycle lane, etc., you could always mark that up in either by having lines or by having by separating the area with cones, or sometimes you can have these sticks that you could put in the road, the white and orange ones, because the street is narrow as it is, and we can do a lot of improvement. And I know it's a compromise by going from 8 to 4, but I honestly think going from 8 to 2 would be that much more sensible. And also, you're not giving up much as far as the divide. Now, if you're worried about cars going on top of the divide, you can raise it. But just having going from 2 feet to 4 feet doesn't make any difference. So I urge you to reconsider, have someone look at it to do that.
The only comment I would make is one of the safety features of what we're doing.
Are you on?
I am not on, I'm sorry. Sorry, Rourke. So I would say one of the safety features of what we're doing at Garber Square is putting lighting in that area, coming in from the west side to the east side. It's really dark at night. And so the potential problem with, and we'll look at it, but I think, honestly, I don't think it's going to work because I don't think we're going to be able to have room for the lights. But we'll check that out.
So the light, because the light could be on either side of the street instead of the center.
We kind of considered that, and I forget why it didn't work in the design, but we could talk about that separately.
Okay.
Yeah. But that was considered, Burke.
And then one small note, Mr. Mayor, I wrote a very strong letter to the Ridgewood News, nothing personal. I'm a big supporter of yours, but I truly think you should recuse yourself from voting at the Valley, because of all the members of the planning board, you're the only one whose feelings are known throughout. I know how you're going to vote. Everybody knows how you're going to vote. And I think you're taking away from the integrity of the process by being so anti-Valley. The other members, I listened to every one of them, and I've been to many meetings. I can never predict who's going to vote which way, while you have been 100% anti-Valley. And I think the process will have that much more integrity if the people voting play their cards close to the chest, so that people cannot tell how they're going to vote. I mean, Mr. Pucciarelli, he recused himself for a very theoretical reason. I think you should do the same. But having said that, you do what you do. I support you. I like you. But every once in a while, I have to really come down hard on you. Thank you.
Fair point. Thank you.
Boyd Loving, 342 South Irving Street. Question about the award you granted tonight for the lightning detection system. It appears as though the Board of Ed gave about $45,000. The council approved $25,000. So we're spending $70,000 on a lightning detection system. It's my understanding that the existing system that we have in place at many locations in the village, the manufacturer or the provider went out of business. Now we are dealing with a new manufacturer. My first question is, does the old system need to be replaced because we can no longer get parts? Is this vendor going to be able to get parts for the old system? My concern is we're going to wind up spending much more than the 70 because the old system is going to have to come out and be replaced.
Yeah, now this, you're correct in the sense that we're sharing this with the Board of Ed, and what this does is it finishes all the fields. So after this is done, all the fields will have lightning detection systems. You're also correct in the sense that the previous manufacturer did go out of business, but we do feel strongly, and we took it out of capital this year, if everybody recalls. We investigated that and felt that we could go at least another year, if not 2 years, with the old system. So we're assured by that. So eventually, are we going to have to change it? Probably at some point. And my concern with the new manufacturer was basically, how do we know that this new manufacturer will not go out of business, and ask whether or not a credit check had been done of the manufacturer. And apparently what happened is we are relying on the county here because the county is doing all their lightning systems through this new manufacturer. So yeah, at some point, I think we're going to have to replace the old system, but we don't need to do it this year with this year's capital.
So another couple of years we might have to.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. My second and final question is, I had made some comments a number of months ago with respect to observing that when the lightning detection system goes off, people aren't vacating the field as they're supposed to. There was some back and forth about whether that was enforceable or not. Has there been any follow-up with respect to what we're doing with regard to the Baseball Association, the umpires calling games when the lightning detection system goes off? At Graydon, it's very prompt. As soon as the lightning detection system goes off, everybody is cleared out of the pool. But for some reason, you can look over from Graydon and look over here, and people are still on the fields over here. So there was a big to-do the last time about it. Any further follow-up on that?
Well, I would say last week, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, actually, I came into the building. It was like, I don't know, 7 o'clock at night, and there must have been 100 kids in the building, because the next morning it was
Tracking
a mess.
dirt.
Tracking dirt all through the place. So that particular evening, they came in. Now, I don't know, Gwen, if they've enforced
Not
that.
without coercing. It was difficult to get people to comply.
Okay.
And they say that, I mean, I've heard complaints that the beacon can be spinning around and around, and they don't see it. It's a cooperative effort, and I have argued that it costs us a lot of money, and in these days when we don't have 2 nickels to rub together, is this really a smart way to be spending our money? And the answer is yes, because if you save one life, it's something we have to do, and it's just a learning curve. It's a community cooperative effort. What happens is we're all enforcing the law. We're asking each other to comply. So if somebody doesn't see it, somebody else reminds somebody or forces somebody to comply with the law. So we all got each other off the fields that day, and then somebody else drove up and tried to set up for the next event. And we told them, don't do that. You can't do that. But it's at least a beginning. We've done the best we can do. The rest is up to people.
Okay, that's it. It seems to work very well at Graydon. I don't hear a lot of people around here. Maybe it'll work better with people around. Concern about the remote fields, though, where you've got a remote field where you've got the detection system going off and there's nobody around but the people who are actually playing the game. How effective that's going to work. It's going to work there. But okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, welcome.
Good evening. Betsy Murphy Sparrow. I just want to make one comment about the trestle, probably after the fact, but I have to say it. I picture with the parking problem, we do have a parking problem, I've heard. I picture somebody coming in from the west side under that underpass, waiting in line to get through in a single line of traffic, finally getting in to the city, to the business district, not being able to park, leaving and never coming back again. I just think it's discouraging. I think it's very bad for the businesses to have that kind of entrance, as has been written in the paper as well. But I just want to make that point. That's all. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Betsy. And just on the issue of parking, we talked about a couple things tonight. I mean, this is one of those issues that we're completely focused on, if not obsessed with. The village manager spoke about the redevelopment zone. That has a big parking component, and we're trying to move that forward. And July 9th, hopefully, we're going to start looking at that draft RFP. The issue, the Gap parking lot, which we talk about, that's all focused on getting additional parking in the downtown. And then next week, we've been talking over the course of several months about the Bergen County Improvement Authority possibly partnering with us to build a parking facility here in Ridgewood. Probably next week, we are tentatively scheduled for the head of the BCIA to come to the council to actually talk to us about their thinking. So putting the trestle issue aside, we are focused like a laser on this parking issue.
Paul, if they can't get in, there won't be a parking problem. That's the thing I'm worried about.
And we're doing. I don't want to really talk about the results yet of the taping that we've been doing at Garber Square, but I will say that before the emergency construction in the last 2 days by Verizon, the traffic was moving in a construction site pretty well. So it's the feeling that this channelization will cause traffic with taking the lights and synchronizing the lights, that we will have better traffic flow than we have today.
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay, thanks, Patsy. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, but you can speak to it if you like, yeah.
What is 14?
Good evening, welcome.
Cottage Place.
I know you're shocked to see me. Leonard Diamond, 131 Cottage Place. I want to talk about the bike lanes and the construction at the trestle. In 2011, your predecessor, some of you were sitting on the board, passed a complete streets policy. The purpose of complete streets, just like in New York City, the Vision Zero project that's going forward is to make our streets safer for all users. Motor vehicle drivers and vulnerable users. By vulnerable users, we mean pedestrians, people in wheelchairs, bicyclists. It is not an uncommon thing in Ridgewood to read in the Ridgewood News on a Friday about someone getting hit by a car in the central business district, around a school, in a neighborhood. And the response from the village to put into place the Complete Streets program was an appropriate response. 27.4% of the deaths that occur every year in motor vehicle accidents are either pedestrians or bicyclists in New Jersey. That's the second highest rate in the country. New York is the only state that is higher than us. And as I just said before, we're not immune to that here. We had a priest that was run over walking from the bus stop to the Y. We had a 21-year-old man killed at the corner of Ridgewood Avenue and Maple, I believe. Memorable one from the news was the 88 and 90-year-old sisters who jumped out in front of the car by Van Nest Square because they must have been moving really fast. So it's an issue here in town. This project was designed by the village engineers along with consulting with the traffic engineer. I believe it was on the safety committee. I ran it by the director of the New Jersey Bike Walk Coalition, Cindy Steiner, who had been here before, and she ran it by a traffic engineer that sits on her board, and they thought it was an excellent plan. They liked it very much, the plan as it was originally drawn. The idea of the plan is to reduce the speed of cars. If you look at the road as it was currently built, the road surface some years back had been scarified, it had been roughened. Yes. The reason that was done was because cars were going down that too fast and were skidding out on the turns. So you have two ways of dealing with cars going too fast. You can either do things like that to make it so that they can continue going too fast but not kill themselves, or you can do things to slow the cars down. The accepted way among traffic engineers to slow cars down is to make the lanes narrower. If you go on the New Jersey Turnpike, there are 12-foot wide lanes. They're going 70 miles an hour plus on the New Jersey Turnpike. We don't need 12-foot wide lanes in Ridgewood when we want people to go 25 miles an hour. So the idea is to make the lanes narrower, and then, just as we do in New York, and I'll move along, it gives you the opportunity to do things to encourage other uses like pedestrians and cyclists and make it safer for those people. So the project's design is excellent. I'm not an engineer, but I have a lot of years in bicycling and advocacy, and I look at these things and I consulted with it. It was a good design. There's one lane going into it from every entrance. You don't need to have two lanes. When you come from Franklin, it's one lane going in, and all that happens when you have it 2 lanes wide there is that people go 40 miles an hour when they hit that curve. So it's a good project. Yes, the bike lane is 2 blocks long. Eventually, hopefully, we'll push you and you'll put bike lanes in more places because it's good for the business district. When you encourage walking and cycling, people shop locally and it helps the local businesses. And I have data. Instead of coming here and saying the sky is falling, I can give you studies and data that show you all of these things. I'll end now just by saying last year, when City Bike was being introduced in New York City, people were coming out of the woodwork saying the end of the world is coming. There are going to be hundreds of people killed by cars. It's going to kill New York City. They have had approximately 2 million trips done on city bikes. I think it's about 4 million miles so far. They have 0 fatalities, and I think they've had 8 people go transported to the hospital. So it isn't always the end of the world when change comes. Change can be good, and I think we need to do things in town to make cars go slower and make it safer for our residents. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Len.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, can I have a resolution to go into closed session, please?
Be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on Wednesday, June 11th, 2014 at 7:30 p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached. And that said closed session be held in the caucus room on the 4th floor of the Ridgewood Village Hall, 131 North Maple Avenue, Ridgewood, New Jersey. And be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to personnel matters to include fire department and legal matters to include tax appeal 1200 East Ridgewood Avenue. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 et sec. And be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the Village Council. May I have a motion?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anyone
Thanks.
opposed?
Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.